Chris Moses with Gospel Progressions University, and welcome to part number 2 of left-hand bass techniques. In the first video, we spoke about the left hand, and I introduced some concepts that you can use as far as octaves and power chords or root and fifths, and some walking bass lines, and we use a worship song as an example. Now I'm excited to get into lesson number 2. We get into a little bit more advanced techniques. Let's jump in. So with this part number 2, with the example that you just heard with Kurt Carr's In the Sanctuary, it's in D flat major, right? So D flat, F, or E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, and D flat. And the chord progression is a 3, 6, 2, 5, and 1 chord progression. When we look at it, the phrase doesn't start on the 3 chord, it starts on the 6 chord. So the intro, believe it or not, is the exact same thing they play throughout the verse of the song. But it just has a different groove. It hits differently because of the way the chords are constructed, and something else that I referenced in my first video referred to as ambiguity. The ambiguity of the chords that are played causes the listener to not be able to precisely place, or the ear to not be able to precisely place the quality of the chord. And when I say quality, I mean whether the chord is going to be a major chord or a minor chord. So it's in D flat major, and the first chord is going to be a B flat, which is the 6. Then they go to the 2 chord for D flat, which is the E flat minor. And then it's going to be the 5 chord, which is A flat major, 1 chord D flat major. And then they go to the 3, F minor, and then 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 6, 2, you're right, 5, 1. So the way this works is that if you, in the beginning, when they're playing it, there's not really much of a groove, right? So you can play this, you literally can play it through the entire, most of the song, and, you know, change keys with it, right? Except for a few parts where they do different chords, but it's the beginning is you have your B flat minor. We spoke about some of these things that I'm doing here, where you have your 1 and 5, all right, dyad, or your power chord. And then they add now this 5 here from D flat, which makes up the B flat minor 7. So 6, 2, 5, 1, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And it just repeats until they build it up, right? So when they build it up, and they hold that 5 chord, right? Power chord here, A flat, E flat, my left hand. And I'm just playing a G flat, B flat, D flat, E flat, or just an inverted E flat minor 7th chord, all right, which is another type of a chord here that we would say is ambiguous, because it's not a definite 5 chord as A flat, where you would have A flat, C, and E flat. There's some ambiguity there. So whenever you're playing chords and you're playing these things to create the ambiguity, a lot of it is suspended. And so now they use the ambiguity of suspension, and they take that bass line and break up the same chords. So here's the ambiguity. It's an A flat chord, but it's not definitely major. It's not definitely minor, but it's an A flat chord, right? And then now you have the outline of the bass. And the funny thing is that they're playing this song, and they're playing the exact same thing. The bass player is like very closely, if you really listen to it. And you may have heard, to me, it's a myth. Don't play the bass. Don't play in the bass line. Why limit yourself? You can. You don't have to just play either voices without roots, or just like totally just neglect your left and tie behind your back and just play your right hand. You're going to play the song, and it actually accentuates. If you go back and you listen to it, you can hear what I'm saying. It adds to it, but it's done in such a way where it brings the groove to the music. That sound, you know, is definitely recognizable. You can hear it, right? So we have our first chord, but you literally can We lift our hands in the sanctuary. All right. We lift our hands to give you the glory. You can hear the whole thing with those chords. But if you played it like that, you could get away with it. You would be right, but the groove is not there. So how do we add the groove there? All right, because we are already playing with the bass line and we're going along with it and it sounds good. You can not play it if you had a full band and you could just play this the chords by themselves. All right, so it would sound like, it would just be this. And when you notice here that I'm playing the chords, again, the ambiguity comes from the types of chords these are. And when I say type, again, I mean the quality of chords. So the first chord here would be a B flat minor, but it's not this. You wouldn't hear B flat minor to E flat minor to A flat major to D flat major, and then, you know, right back to, they're not spelling it out for you. The ambiguity or the uncertainty of the chord actually comes from the fact that the third is either buried, the third interval of the chord, or it's just totally gone altogether. So that helps with the bass line and the forward momentum of the song. Because with ambiguous chords like these here, there's something that wants to happen. It wants to resolve, and the ear is waiting for the resolution, but it never comes. But it comes in the bass line with the 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And that repeats all the time. So we break that up in our left hand. So what we have now are a series of chords with ambiguity on the right side on your chords and the certainty of the progression where the chords are actually going on your left. And that's what the left hand bass can do. That's the quality, and that's what it brings to the chords. So we have these chords here that are just kind of in space. It's like, you know, just all day with the suspensions. But we can add the bass line and it's broken up, right? B flat, E flat. And this is technically, I can say, okay, well, this is an E flat minor 7 chord, right? But the way it's being played here, it jumps from this thing here, this chord here, and it could be E flat. It could be E flat going to a D flat, or E flat, you know, kind of going to maybe an A flat. Depending on what you play in the bass, it totally changes the quality or the feel or the drive of the song. So remember, you have the ambiguity or the uncertainty that you're adding on one side, and the certainty with the progression 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 on your left hand. So 3, a 2 chord, right, and then 5 chord, right? So you have this here. Without this C here, because technically you do have an A flat major, right? A flat, E flat, C, right? But the way it's voiced or the way the chord is constructed, being with the root is all the way on the top, and then you're not even playing the root here. You're playing the third of A flat. So you have this feel here. So is this an F minor or is it a D flat over an F? So the ear itself has an understanding where it's going to go based on the left hand. E flat, A flat, all right? B flat, E flat, A flat, F minor, and then back to B flat again. Same chord progression. And what's happening here is that we're leaving things in space. It's kind of up there on the right hand side, but the left hand side, the bass line gives you the surety. And so the groove of the song, the soul of the song is kind of sucked out without that bass line. This is why you have to practice your bass lines in your left hand. Make sure you get this down and make sure you get that with the syncopation. So that's that song, right? And then it continues to go up and it modulates. So let's take a listen to the second song by Hezekiah Walker. So it's in E flat minor, right? So E flat F, G flat, A flat B, C flat, D flat, and E flat, right? Or G flat relative major. G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat, F, and G flat. But the key center is in E flat minor. The only compromise, the only way, if you hear a song like they say, hey man, we need you to play it, but we have nobody else to play it with you. It's just you and a drummer. So you can't possibly take that song and that iconic, for at least for that song, bass line, and just say, you know what? I'm not going to bother doing it. I'm just going to play just what the chords are. It won't work. It won't have the same feel. So what do? You know, you have a bass part, you got a synth part, you have an organ part. And if you've noticed in that clip that I showed you, there are certain parts that they're playing and they're not playing, where you have the organ kind of carrying the melody and the synth part doing the hits and carrying some of the harmony along with it. So it's a complex mixture of sounds. When you're playing alone and you're going solo, there are some things you're going to have to just give up and just have to live without. But there is a happy center. There's a way to compromise. So what we do, we learn the melody of the song, right? So, and we have that, right? F, F, E flat, D flat, G flat, E flat, D flat. So we have that part down. So we have this in our right hand. It's a syncopation. Again, D flat, D flat, D flat, and then B flat and E flat. It's best to do this and play it where you're just playing just a dyad in your right hand, because there's a lot. You're going to be very busy with your left hand. So this is the easiest thing to do. The first thing is you can just hit the first triad of chords here. And then we have the B flat with the melody of E flat, A flat and D flat, or D flat and G flat. And then we have that down. So we go to our left hand. It's your basic melody. It's not exactly what they're doing, but it's close enough, especially if you can kind of hide it with your left hand and what you're trying to do. So the left hand would be, so you don't have to remember that. It's going to take some practice to get that. You remember what that is, but the point here is being, this is what you're hearing in the bass line in essence. It's basically it. So we have to take what we just did and put it with the right hand. That takes practice. You're going to have to sit alone and go over things turtle slow until you can play it at tempo. So it would be, I could do something like that too. So it's the same thing, and I'm just going to take it down an octave here. So you get the picture here. You practice it and then you build it up. You can take it down an octave and play it where you need to play it. But the overall point is this. Whenever you're hearing a song, you got to think about what you're doing on the right hand and the quality of chord that you're going to play in your right hand, and how your left hand can help to define it, give it more definition, and basically make a bed, so to speak, for the chord to lie on, to give it more, okay, I know what this is. It's not exactly that in the right hand if it was isolated, but with the left hand, we can put the two together. Because you got something that is, I'm not really sure, and something that sounds okay by itself. When you put it together, being the only player, it will sound much better. And then we can take that now and practice our rhythm and our syncopation. And once you get that rhythm and syncopation now, there isn't anything that you can't learn to play with your left hand. It's a great skill to have if you're the only player. Many of you out there I know are the only keyboard player. There's no one else that's around. So you're going to need to work on these things when you have time by yourself. God bless you. I hope this has helped you. If it has, please drop me a comment in the comment section. If it hasn't, you can hit the like button twice and leave a comment anyway. It does help me. And what else helps me to help you is if you hit the bell icon, and you can be notified every time I drop a new video. And if you haven't yet, go check out my free guide over at gospelprogressionsuniversity.com. And you can download my free guide. It's called What Do Pros Know That You Don't? God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.